Here, the popular Noah's Ark are the gigantic servers of Google and Facebook. And Facebook has made a principle of not deleting the data of its members as far as possible, and to conserve them forever. And in this case, we can see under a critical position, we can see that the flight from, or the refuting from the symbolic death can be a trap, because there are several movements against Google, so that every individual can decide by itself which information should be served and which not. Otherwise, they will stay in the internet for eternity. What was once unimaginable has now become real through technical development. Storage space is almost infinitely large. However, storage time has almost been reduced to real time. Real time means 4 or 5 years. The storage media of the stone of the mummy persists for thousands of years. The storage media of photography, video, DVD, and hard disk last for increasingly shorter periods of time. Pressure caused by selection is disappeared, since everything can be stored. The promise of overcoming symbolic death almost appears to have been redemanded. A major time pressure now prevails in the permanent migration of memory data. The pressure is caused by the industry. Industry follows the principle of capitalism, which Austrian economist Joseph Schumpeter characterized as creative destruction. Innovation means every new product introduced onto the market destroys the old one in order to be economically successful. In this way, in ever shorter intervals of time, new and better products are brought onto the market. So as storage medium, the media of immortalization have become a transitional medium. This also forces the museums to perpetual innovations, to permanent transformations and transitions. It forced them, however, into permanent investments. The museums are not prepared for this. They can hardly afford to sustain their contract of conservation. This is why industry should be responsible for making its innovations possible for the museums. If it does not, then industry is responsible for the destruction of this digital culture, which it itself brought to life. So the investment cycles of a museum is quite different to the innovation cycles of the industry. That's one of the crucial points in our times. The question is whether creative destruction, like Schumpeter gives the definition, should be also a principle of cultural production as another type of selection. Until now, cultural goods were often conserved or destroyed by chance, accidentally. If it's now possible to conserve all cultural productions by digital means, then for the first time the possibility now exists for making conscious qualitative selection and to shape our own history. All the thousands of years before, the history was created accidentally. Now we have the chance to decide what products or which products of our contemporary age will be served for the next generations. With the aid of new and almost limitless storage media, we could today record and conserve the eternity of cultural production with all its works and data. However, when compared to this, because storage time has in proportion shrunken, we are forced to perpetually transfer the enormous amounts of data onto new storage media. And we must create structures in the new storage spaces so as to be able to navigate through it, namely through search algorithms or semantic web structures. The selection appears to have been replaced by the search machine. So we switched the system from the Noah's Ark principle to the search machines of Google, maybe. What this signifies for the museums amounts to a paradigm shift in several senses of the word. They conserve and select not only the historical analog cultural heritage, but also the production of contemporary digital cultural heritage. In this sense, the relationship of storage space and storage time has fundamentally changed. But in the age of the emancipated user, also has the relationship of artists and recipients, as well as museums and visitors, become an interactive one. The museum is not longer only a Noah's Ark, but has also become an interactive platform. For thousands of years, attempts are being made to avoid the symbolic death. Therefore, the culture has developed a variety of storage technologies. With each new technological or cultural innovation, new storage technologies were invented and applied. Triggered by the new digital opportunities, currently a quantum leap in storage technologies happened. In practical terms, due to the above-mentioned paradigm shift, the Noah's Ark of cultural tradition, the museums are confronted with various challenges, and I try to summarize these challenges in 8 practical points. The analog media must also be digitized. Should the analog media disintegrate, the digital masters should continue to be stored and conserved. In the case of photography and video, the need for action is more urgent than it is the case with stone and wood. Second, collections of devices and replaced parts should be organized so as to make analog media such as video or film playable again. Collections of equipment and replacement parts should be set up so as to present works of art in their original conditions. So many hardware is lost, and that's one of the lack in the media art, that you can't present media art with their original conditions. Storage media and storage architectures must be constructed for managing the migration of data. And archive structures, data banks, and searching tools must be created, which make it possible to find orientation through the great mass of conserved information. And we need access to the contents of storage media. This concerns the technical accessing possibilities, but also user rights, so make the treasures of digital memory accessible for the audience and for the public. The possibilities for qualitative selection must be created. The selection and search will otherwise arbitrary, and you need staff and personnel who can make the decisions for the selection of artworks. The collections and archives should be linked via internet to open these treasures to the public worldwide. Above all, that is a great opportunity for new media art particularly, since new media art could not be adequately represented with traditional media like books. You have no time-based publication possibilities. You have DVDs, of course, but the internet, I think, is the adequate medium to present the time-based and interactive art. So, is there anyone who needs a break before I start in my last contribution of the lecture? Are you still awake? Great. So then I will lead you to my second and last part of the lecture. and it's focused on media art collection and the challenge of conservation. Now, I came from the theoretical part to the crucial, practical part of the lecture. I would like to introduce some problems and research results of restoration, preservation, and storage in the age of new media, using the example of ZKM collections and archives. ZKM's fine art collections include paintings, sculptures, photography, installation, video art, electronic music, interactive installation, net art projects, and that's the very new app art as well, and much more. The biggest challenge for the preservation of media art is, above all, the conservation, restoration, warehousing, and storage of tapes and digital media like DVDs, hard disks, Blu-rays, etc., as well as the collecting of recording and playback machines. So we received many archives to ZKM which contain papers, computers, very old computers, hard disks, DVDs, and there is no possibility to run them again. So we try to rearrange possibilities to open the content. Currently, the audiovisual collection of ZKM accessible to the public includes nearly 1,600 video titles and 14,000 audio titles. The research collection contains 6,500 titles in addition. And we can't make them accessible via internet. Of course, we do not own the rights to do that, but they are open for scientific purposes. The collection on media art contains more than 250 multimedia interactive works, mainly produced in ZKM. And the collection of fine art contains approximately 2,000 artworks, including the huge video installations for Nam June Paik and Fabrizio Plessi, which were brought to the collection and not produced in ZKM. Concerning the audiovisual collections in the 18th and 19th, mostly single artworks from the most prominent media artists were acquired and stored predominantly in the formats of U-matic, VHS, and Beta SP. But today, the focus of ZKM is on accumulating complete archives with tapes, documentation material, and equipment relating to art ventures such as Documenta 5, or the archive of Woody and Vasulka and Steiner, or the archive of Ira Schneider, where you can see examples of their own websites. Currently, ZKM houses approximately 100 archives. Audiovisual, audio archives, visual archives, paper archives. And these archives introduce many old, out-of-use formats to the collection, which posed entirely new challenges for the ZKM. The tapes in the original ZKM video collection are warehoused in acclimatized, safe depots. Of course, we are a museum, we have to do it. From 1997 onwards, compressed digital versions of works with a runtime of maximum 15 minutes were saved onto CD-ROMs in the so-called jukebox. You can see the device or the machine here on the photo. The jukebox made the content of the collection available to the public. And the important fact was that the public can choose their own program. So you don't need any experts who put your DVD or the video into a machine, press the start button, and change the videotapes if you want to see another video, so the audience can do it by itself. That was in the late 19th a very advanced step into the publication of video art. This idea of making video and audio works accessible to a wider audience was initially the main motivation for the digitization of the analog tapes. It was not the reason of conservation. It was the reason of accessibility. Digitization enabled works to be viewed independently by the audience, as I mentioned before. But the jukebox, and that's the system, the very complicated and complex system of the jukebox. But the jukebox, which in 1997 was still something like the avant-garde of data storage, quickly became full and technically old-fashioned too. After only 10 years, it went into the Media Museum as a dinosaur of digital media storage history. And I liked so much to bring delegations from abroad to the jukebox, and they were so amazed. Oh, then they caught an idea what the digital storage is. Today, the digital storage is so unsexy that I avoid to show it, but is impressively expanded. So, and we discussed over years what the new system of storage, of technical storage medium could be. And first we discussed the possibility of a hard disk architecture, but then we decided on a combination of a new generation of magnetic tapes. So that was a surprising point, because magnetic tapes, it's difficult to pronunciate, magnetic tapes that had been a very old-fashioned technology. But a consortium of international companies like IBM and HP and Fuji, among others, they created a new generation of magnetic tapes, and we thought that they must have a very, very important reason to do that. They give a guarantee over 30 years running. I can't believe it, but an institution like ZKM is happy to have a storage medium which will last over 10 years. Because we are under such enormous time pressure, and normally we have to change the migration storage after 5 years to bring all the data to a new system. And it seems to be more comfortable to have that time period last over 10 years or maybe 15 years. So we can concentrate, meanwhile, on the themes of restoration of media art and not migration of media art data.